Beep boop bop, it's Becca and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to try out a different type of video. I'm going to teach you how to make a wave friendship bracelet. Now these bracelets are actually so cool. I have one on right now. So I'm going to take you through all the steps and teach you how to make one of these types of bracelets. Here we go. So the first step in making this bracelet is you're going to pick two colors that you want to use for your wave. So here I have a pink color and I have a green color. And to set up, you need a total of 11 strings. So you need 6 strings of one of your colors. So I have 6 strings of my pink color and 5 strings of your other. Make sure you start with the color that you chose that has 6 on the left side and the color that has 5 on the right side. Now the pattern for this type of bracelet can be a little bit complicated, but I think it's easiest to think about it in 10 different steps. So you're going to be doing 10 rows of knots, and that's going to make one of your waves. And each new row, you're going to leave out one string. So in our first row, we're going to leave out this string. This string is not going to be knotted in our first row. And then in the following row, this string will be included, and this end one will not be included. And each time, you'll be alternating which side you don't use the string from. So let's start with row 1. We're going to be doing 5 basic knots. So our first knot will be with the first 2 strings. These first 2 strings all the way on our left side. So we're going to make 2 knots to the left. So you're going to take your string that's on the right. You're going to make a backwards 4 to make your knot. Weave it through. There's 1. And 2. There's one of our knots. Now these strings are done for that row. Then you're going to move over to your next 2 strings. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We have a backwards knot. So we're taking our string on the right, making our 4, weaving it through, pulling it up to the top, and you do that twice to make 1 knot. Now you push that over to the side. Then our next 2 strings, and again, we're going to make the same backwards knot. So backwards, and then backwards again. Our next 2 knots are going to be forwards knots in our next 2 strings. So now we're on to our green. We have 2 forward knots. So you take the string on the left, make a forwards 4 to make your knot. Do 2 of those. And then we move on to our next 2 strings. And remember, this is our first row, so this string is not included. We're going to do the same forward knot. Forwards and forwards. Okay, so now we have completed our first row, and you still can't see anything really, but don't worry, it will turn into a wave pretty soon. So now for our next row, we're going to exclude this string all the way on the left. For our second row, we're going to do 2 backwards knots and 3 forwards knots. So we're going to do 2. We're going to do a backward one here. Again, you're always pairing off your strings. Backwards, backwards to make a backwards knot. And then our next 2, we're also doing backwards. Now we're at the point where our colors are going to be intermingling a little bit, and we're going to do 3 forward knots. So you're going to make your 4. Always 2 4s equals 1 knot. Again, we're doing forwards. And forwards one more time. Now, we have completed row 2. Now we're on to row 3. In row 3, we now have this string being excluded from the pattern. In this one, we're going to do 3 backwards knots and 2 forwards knots. So let's go to our first 2 strings. This will be backwards. And remember, when I say backwards, that means the right goes over the left. Make sure that you're able to see the order that all of your strings are in. It can get a little bit confusing if you see they're overlapping, so just make sure that you're grabbing the correct string. So now we have 2 forwards knots. Yay, now we have finished our first 3 rows. Now row 4 gets a little bit more complicated because we're going to be adding in a mixed knot. So in this row we're going to be excluding our first string, and we're going to do 2 backwards knots, then a mixed knot, then 2 forwards knots. So let's take our first 2, and this is going to be backwards. And then again we have backwards. And you can see how the green is coming out of the middle now. This is starting to form into our wave. And now we have our first mixed knot. So these are the 2 strings that are going to be involved in our mixed knot. We're going to go backwards, then forwards. So when we do backwards, we do right over left, backwards 4, and then we're going to take that string and we're going to go forwards 4. So the strings will be back on the same sides that they started on. And we push those off to the side. Then we have 2 more knots in this row. These are going to both be forwards knots. There we go, and you can start to see our wave starting to form. Now we're on to row 5. In row 5, our string all the way on the right will be excluded. And then we have 2 backwards knots, 2 forwards knots, and a mixed knot that will be forward, backward. Then our last knot is our mixed knot, and this is the one where we're going to go forwards and then backwards. Ooh, we are halfway done. Row 6 will be a mixed knot, backwards, forwards, then a forwards knot, then another mixed knot that's backwards, forwards, and then 2 backwards knots. So in row 6, this string will be excluded, the one all the way on the left. And here we will go backwards, forwards. Now these 2 strings will be out of the picture. Then we're on to our next 2. This will be a normal forwards knot. Now we have backwards, forwards, backwards, and forwards. And then 2 backwards knots. Now onto row 7, we will be excluding the string all the way on the right. In row 7, we have no mixed knots. We have 3 forwards knots and 2 backwards knots. And we are done with row 7. Now onto row 8, we have 2 forwards knots and then 3 backwards knots. Now we're done with row 8 and on to row 9. Row 9, we will exclude our string all the way on the right side. Then we have 3 forwards knots, and then a mixed knot where we're going to go backwards, forwards, and then a backwards knot. Now we finished row 9. You can really see our wave now. And now we have 1 row left, and this is row 10. We're going to leave out our string all the way on the left, and we're going to do 3 forwards knots and 2 backwards knots. Yay, we finished our whole wave. So we did all 10 rows. And you can see this is our 1 wave. And we are back to how we started. So we have our 6 pink strings on the left side and our 5 green strings back on the right side. So now you're set up to just continue on. You do the same thing over and over again until it is as long as you want. Now in the end of the bracelet, what I like to do is finish it off with a braid. So then you don't have to do waves all the way through. So to do the braid, I like to make sure that the colors are mixed a little bit. So I like to section it off. For example, the middle will have pink, pink, green, green. And then I like to mix it up a little bit. So I'll move maybe 2 of these pink strings over to this side. 1 of these green strings over to the other side. And now just finish it off with a normal braid. And there you go. You do that all the way till the end. Now I do understand that this type of bracelet can be a little bit hard, so it's helpful to have some sort of cheat sheet. So this is what I like to use. And these arrows represent the way that the direction that the knots go in. So for example, row 1, we have 3 backwards knots, so pointing that way, and then 2 forwards knots. And then this line straight up and down is the string that is not included. Then for the next one, this would be not included, 2 backwards, 3 forwards. Then you have mixed ones. I have the direction that you're gonna go in. So here we have backwards, then forwards. And for example, here we have forwards, and then backwards. So using a cheat sheet like this could be helpful to help you remember the whole pattern, since it is very repetitive and also seems a little bit random, but then it ends up turning out really well. I also have here examples of 2 other wave bracelets that I have made. So here's one of them. I really like this one. I think it's fun to try out these types of patterns because you can mix and match a bunch of different colors and see how you like them in different contrasting ways. I honestly think that they look best when you have a darker color and a lighter color, because then the contrast makes the wave really pop. And yeah. I hope that video was informative and it helped you to learn how to make the wave pattern. Give it a try, let me know how it goes. Also, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Leave in the comments if you want me to try and make any other bracelets, show you some other tutorials. There are so many other kinds out there that are really cool, a lot that I've practiced, so I would love to teach you how to make some others. And I'll see you next time. Bye.